Spread the word of Islam. Every difficulty faced in our lives.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ثم أما بعد. Our main topic today is Islam and politics, and the first part of this topic is the question, who has the right to rule? This is the most important question about laws. I know that many people take it for granted, take the laws by which they are governed by granted. Not many of them ask this question, but it is a very important question. Who has the right to rule? God or human beings? People in the West, I mean political theorists, and especially democratic theorists, asked many questions about this, about the people. Who are the people? Because this is something that is very important for democracy. When you say that democracy is ruled by the people, who are the people? You cannot say that all the people in the world. This cannot be the case. Now, who are the people then? The answer, practically now, is the citizens of each country. But even this raises many questions. If the citizens of a country rule, again the question, do they all of them rule? Do they all of them legislate? No. Only in matters of referenda are the people consulted and asked whether they like this or that. But even here, the laws are passed by the majority of those who take part in the referendum. This might be, in spite of the fact they are the majority of those who take part, they might be a minority of the population. So you cannot say that the people are ruling, even in a referendum. But the practical way is to elect representatives. Representatives who go to legislative bodies like Parliament or Congress or so. And it is these people, there can be only a few hundred. It is these people who rule on behalf of the whole citizens of a country. But the representatives are not the citizens. They are only a minority of the citizens. And they don't consult the citizens on every issue. Yes, they pay attention, especially to whether the people in their constituencies would like this law or would not, and whether they would vote for the person who voted for it or not. Yes, they pay some kind of attention to this. But in reality, the representatives express their own views and defend their own views by their own arguments and their own logic. They don't have to, and they don't, as a matter of fact, refer to their constituencies. So you cannot say that the citizens of a country are the people who rule. If the laws were really passed, this is again a very important question. If the laws were really passed by the people, as it is claimed, then there would have been no need for lawyers. Everyone would say, I took part in passing this law, so I know the law. There is no need for lawyers. But this is not the case. It is the lawyers who know the law. The majority of people in the country know very little about the law, and so they have to go to the lawyers to defend them. Now, why should people have the right to rule? Again, political theorists in the West gave some reasons for this. The most important reason they gave is what they call self-rule. If you rule yourself, then you are a master of your own destiny or yourself. But if you are ruled by someone else, then, as they say, you are a slave of that person who legislates for you. This is what many of the democratic theorists say. But as a matter of fact, it is impossible for all people to rule themselves. It is impossible, and whether in a democracy or in any other political system. So in a democracy, as we have just said, it is the majority of the people, even if in, let us say, in a referendum, it is the majority of the people. What about the minority? The laws that were passed were not accepted by them. So they are ruled by laws that they were passed or accepted by someone else. Can we say that they are slaves of the majority, that the people who are in a minority are always slaves of the majority? This is one of the questions that they raised. The other question, one of the reasons that they gave for justifying what is called the rule of the people. The other justification is that the individual knows what is good and what is bad for him. So he must have the right to rule himself. He has knowledge of what is good and what is bad for him. But again, this is not true, because we know that not every human being, in fact, no human being has knowledge of what is good and what is bad for him in any absolute sense. No, that's why, as I said, we go to lawyers, we go to physicians to tell us about it, we go to people to teach us, we consult many other people. We don't know much about what is good and what is bad for ourselves. But even if we knew, the laws do not concern me as an individual. They concern the whole country. So if I said, I like this law because it serves my interest, then what about someone else who says, no, I don't like it because it doesn't serve my interest? So we resort to the majority, whether in a referendum or in a legislative body. It is the majority that passes that law. So the laws that are passed will not be the laws that I chose according to my own knowledge of the situation. So it is not possible. And all that I have been saying is what the political theorists in the West said. But anyway, they insisted on the laws being passed by the people in any sense of the word. Now we come to the other part of our question. Why should God have the right to rule? The answer is very, very simple. Because all the reasons that were given by thinkers to justify human rule do not in fact apply to human beings. They only apply to God. First, they said, as we mentioned before, that if someone legislates for you, then he becomes your master and you become his slave. But God is, as a matter of fact, your creator, and therefore you are, as a matter of fact, his slave. You are his servant. So when you accept his legislation, you are only acknowledging something that is true. You are acknowledging a fact. This is different from accepting the rules or the laws of a human being, because by accepting them, you make him your master. As a matter of fact, he is not, but you accept him as your master.
Spread the word of Islam.
At the time of Nuh, peace be upon him, the floods swept the entire earth, sparing only those who believed. Today, floods of shirk, floods of innovation, and floods of desires and lusts are sweeping the whole earth. Al-Imam Malik ibn Anas of Medina said that the Sunnah is the Ark of Nuh. Whoever boards it is saved, and whoever refuses is drowned and is doomed forever. Join me in Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyya, the 40 hadith compiled by Imam al-Nawawi.
Join Asim Al-Hakim in Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyya every Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. Saudi Arabia and 12:30 a.m. UAE on Peace TV. Dialogue. Discussion. Debate. Rebuttal. Conclusion.
Eliminate misconceptions about religion. Get enlightened.
Witness Dr. Zakir Naik in a battle of words in Crossfire every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Saudi Arabia and 9:30 p.m. UAE on Peace TV.
To unite your heart, to unite your family, to unite the nations, and to unite the world. But how? Not east, not west, not my way, not your way, but the way of Allah. Unity is in Islam. To know more, watch my program, Unity in Islam, only on Peace TV.
To understand how the concept of brotherhood in Islam increases the face value of humanity as a whole, join Hussein Yee in Unity in Islam next on Peace TV.
Spread the word of Islam.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Now we come to the other part of our question. Why should God have the right to rule? The answer is very, very simple. Because all the reasons that were given by thinkers to justify human rule do not in fact apply to human beings. They only apply to God. First, they said, as we mentioned before, that if someone legislates for you, then he becomes your master and you become his slave. But God is, as a matter of fact, your creator, and therefore you are, as a matter of fact, his slave. You are his servant. So when you accept his legislation, you are only acknowledging something that is true. You are acknowledging a fact. This is different from accepting the rules or the laws of a human being, because by accepting them, you make him your master. As a matter of fact, he is not, but you accept him as your master. The second reason they mentioned is knowledge. And we know that because God is a creator, He knows his creation. He knows everything about human beings, their external circumstances, their internal circumstances, and the relations between them, what is good for them, what is bad for them, and so on. I heard one sheikh recently relating an interesting story about someone who came to a scholar. This happened in the past, a scholar, and told him, "You say that only God is a creator?" He said, "Of course, yes." He said, "But I can also create. And here is the proof." He brought with him something like a box, and in which he put something like meat or something, and he closed it and told the sheikh not to open it until he comes back to him. He asked the sheikh, "Is there anything except this food now?" The sheikh said, "Is there any living thing?" The sheikh said, "No. It is only meat or bread or whatever." Then he came after a few days and told the sheikh to open the box. He opened it, and there were many living creatures moving. And he said to the sheikh, "You see, I created them." The sheikh must have smiled. And he said to him, "How many are they?" He said, "I don't know." The sheikh said, "You created them and you don't know how many are they?" Then he asked him another question. "What are the males and the females among them?" He said he didn't know. He asked them, "When will each one of them die?" He said he didn't know. So if someone is the creator, the real creator of human beings, he must be able to answer all these questions. That is why you find in many verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeats this fact. Allah knows, you don't know. He didn't say you cannot know anything, because Allah knows that we know something, because He endowed us with capacities by which we can acquire knowledge. He gave us the senses, He gave us reason, so we can acquire knowledge. Allah knows this, but we cannot know everything that is necessary for us to know. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeats in many verses of the Quran that Allah knows and you don't know. And He says in one verse that you might like something that is not good for you, and you might hate something that is good for you. So you must trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and accept His legislation. Also, Allah's knowledge is comprehensive. It is not like the knowledge of the human legislator, whether they are the citizens of a country or they are the representatives of those citizens in parliament. Now, some people ask questions about God's rule, and they are questions that must be answered. One question is, they say that the events that happen to human beings are infinite, unlimited. So how can there be rulings on all these events in one confined book like the Quran? How can this cannot happen? So they ask this question about God's legislation. The answer is very simple. The rulings in the Quran, yes, some of them are about certain specific things like don't drink wine, don't indulge in gambling, very specific, yes. But then there are general rules under which all the new events by which they can be ruled. And also there is a fact that events that happen to human beings are not all of them unique. There is no, in fact, unique event. Every event resembles to some extent another event. So you give the new event or the new happening the same ruling that is given to the one that resembles it, the ruling that is in the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And thirdly, the rulings of God are not about everything. He gives us room to legislate on things that he knows that we know. So there is no problem about this. Then there is a very important question many people ask. They say, someone would say, yes, I believe in God, and if I knew that this is God's legislation, I would follow it. But our problem is, where can we find this divine legislation? Our answer is, first, you must believe, if you really believe in God and you know who God is, you must believe that he would legislate for human beings. God will not create human beings and provide them with everything that they need, their material life, and neglect to legislate for them about their spiritual life. So there must be legislation from God. There must be legislation. You must take this as a matter of belief. And then you say to yourself, there must be this kind of legislation somewhere in the world. So I will look for it. Where do you look for it? You find some people, religious people, who will tell you that we have a book that we believe is a divine book from God. But they are different books. So you have to decide which of them is the real divine book that God revealed to human beings. To do this, you have to have some standards by which to judge whether a book is divine or not divine. One of these, the obvious question that you will ask is the historical authenticity of the book. If someone says that this book was revealed to Prophet so and so and so, the first question you ask is, what is the historical evidence for this? When did this Prophet live, and what is the evidence that this book was revealed to him? The second point is to look into the book itself. And if you see that there are any contradictions in it, you say to yourself, this cannot be from God, because God does not contradict himself. Again, you look into it and see if it advocates some immoral things. You say to yourself, no, God cannot do something like this. God is perfect. Then you again look into the book and see what does it say about God. By your own reason, you can see that God must be perfect. So if it gives you an imperfect picture of the Creator, you say to yourself that this cannot be a book from God. You look into the legislation in that book, and you ask and try to investigate whether they are comprehensive or not, whether they cover everything that you need as a human being or not. The more you find it comprehensive, then you say to yourself, if all the other points are also accepted by you, then you say to yourself, this must be the book that I'm looking for. Otherwise, you try to look for another book, but you must be certain that Allah will guide you to the true book that He revealed to human beings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mm-hmm.